Hello everyone, back to you in today's second video. It's JMA Friday, so we're going to have a look at the weather for next 4 weeks, next month ahead, with the Japanese and CFS V2 models. It's the month ahead look ahead, and I'll get on with that for you very shortly. Just to say that coming up later on, we're going to have the regular 10-day video update, including all of the usual features. And then tonight we've got our ENSO update for May coming up, so we're going to bring you an update of everything El Nino, La Nina related, and so on. That's going to be coming up for you around 7 o'clock this evening, I would have thought. The European Outlook has been released, so we've brought back the European Outlook, of course, after a 4-year break. That's back on a Friday morning, so have a look at that, see what weather's going to be doing across Europe in detail for the next 4 weeks. Right, so I'm going to start off with the JMA. So we're looking at the JMA 500 millibar height anomalies from the North Pole view down. First of all, the Arctic view down. That's the North Pole just there, of course. I've got the wider mid-latitudes around here. Blue is extrapolating to below average heights, which is low pressure. Yellow, orange and red extrapolate to above average heights, which is high pressure. These are broken down into week periods, these charts. The first week period will take us from the 29th of May today to the 5th of June. So the coming week we'll have above average heights, high pressure dominating across many northern parts of Europe, with below average heights to our south. Winds are going to be in from an easterly direction. There's a lot of dry weather on offer in the week ahead, and it is going to be pretty warm as well, especially to start off with. Later on it may start getting a little bit cooler, but overall dry and quite warm to start us off. Big changes, though, as we go through to week 2. This takes us from the 5th through to the 12th of June, and we find an area of below average heights, low pressure extending down the western side of Europe, above average heights pulling out into the North Atlantic and going up towards northern Scandinavia, up towards Svalbard. And it leaves us doing something a little bit like that with the jet stream. So we go on to the cold side of a jet stream there, and with a trough of low pressure involved, it could be quite unsettled. So a cool and unsettled spell coming up during the first half of June, perhaps. Not ideal, but there we go. The gardens do need some rain, and that probably would deliver some much needed rain to many parts of the country. And then weeks 3 and 4 takes us from the 12th through to 26th of June. And overall, not particularly good signals, really. Got above average heights up towards Iceland and Greenland. That's never normally a particularly good sign in the summer, with a trough of below average heights through central parts of Europe. Otherwise, we've got sort of near normal pressure, but we will probably be bringing in the wind like from an easterly or northeasterly direction. Of course, with this trough of low pressure just here, that could threaten some quite heavy rain, particularly to more eastern, southern parts of the country. So it could be a rather unsettled and cool June that's setting up here. Let's have a look at the detail then. So again, week 1 is going to be from the 29th of May to the 5th of June. British Isles just here in the top right hand corner of the chart as you're looking at it, of course. So we can't see the Arctic, sort of the North Pole and Scandinavia and Greenland, those sort of areas. They're off the chart, but we've had a look at map view down, so we know what's going on. The coming week is dominated by high pressure in from off the Atlantic and into northern Europe, with low pressure down to our south. Winds are sort of easterly. So the temperature anomaly in the week ahead is significantly above average. You're going to be a much warmer than average week coming up, 2 to 3 degrees above average. So that really is a very warm week on the way. And it's going to be largely drier than average as well. So certainly the week ahead is shaping up to be dry and warm. However, things change quite significantly for week 2, which is the 5th through to the 12th of June. Again, we get this trough of low pressure set up over the UK and much of Western Europe. Temperatures plummet, so we go from being 2 to 3 degrees above average to being around 1 to 2 degrees below average potentially. So it's a cold and average week coming up there from the 5th through to the 12th of June. And if that wasn't enough, it's also wetter than average as well. So a very, very significant deterioration in the weather takes place there in week 2. Let's see what happens in weeks 3 and 4. So then we sort of get high pressure setting up towards Greenland and Iceland, which we can't see, but that would be off the chart up there. with lower pressure through central parts and western parts of Europe. Perhaps we've got near normal heights for the UK. Our temperature anomaly starts to recover a little bit, but probably still hints at being rather below average overall. It's certainly not an overly warm 2-weekly period being signalled there. And if anything, it's going wetter in the south and drier in the north and the west. So we see above average precipitation for England and Wales, but Scotland and Northern Ireland are rather drier than average. Many central parts of Europe are also wetter than average as well. So it looks like it's probably quite a mixed June after a very warm and dry opening few days. Looks like we go quite a lot cooler and quite a lot more unsettled as well. Let's have a look at the tropical... No, let's have a look at CFS V2. What am I talking about? Let's have a look at CFS V2 next, see how that compares. So again, these are 500 millibar heights, and they're broken down into week periods. The first week period is going to take us from the 29th of May to the 4th of June. The coming week is dominated by high pressure sitting across many northern parts of Europe. We have a lot of high pressure across much of northern Europe. Low pressure is to the south, across east parts of Europe as well. So agreement between the two models for week 1, as you would expect. We're dominated by high pressure, mostly dry, fine and warm. Week 2 is when the change takes place. It's the 5th to the 11th of June. The high pressure retrogresses into the North Atlantic, so it goes against the zonal flow. Low pressure sets up across the west and southwest of Europe. Jet stream pushes southwards, so we turn both cooler and more unsettled into week 2. Week 3 looks like that, so the above average heights then returns to our north, quite a large area of high pressure to our north, low pressure to the south. Winds will be going easterly with that, probably still unsettled with some quite heavy rain in the south, could be drier up in the north. And then week 4 is the 19th to the 25th of July, with the above average heights then pretty much starting to build back in over the country. So that is turning us a lot drier then as we get through to week 4. And probably, although wind could be a little bit northeasterly, but probably I think easterly winds would be starting to draw some warmer air back in from off the continent. So later on in June, we probably see a recovery in temperature and things start to go dry. But we've got a couple of weeks that do look quite dodgy there through the early and middle part of the month. Temperature anomalies from the 29th of May to 4th of June, very significantly above average, a hotter than average week coming up, quite substantially so. Again, just as what JMA was showing, there's a plummet in the temperature taking place from week 1 to week 2, though. So in week 1, we're kind of like 1 to 2 degrees above average on the temperature scale. That's quite a hot week for end of May, early June. But by week 2, we're going below average on the temperature scale. We're going to around 1 to 2 degrees below average, with those green colours spreading in across the UK and many parts of Europe as well, seeing quite a plummet in the temperature. So really big changes from week 1 to week 2, very significant drop in temperature. Recovering temperature begins to appear for week 3. This is the 12th to the 18th of June. Starts to go a bit warmer than average to our north and west, but most places actually still close to normal. And then week 4 brings back the heat. So we go through to the 19th, 25th of June, and we see temperature becoming significantly warmer at that point. So after a cold shock, very similar to May actually, how this is playing out, we get a cold shock early on in June, and then there's a very substantial recovery in the temperature, becomes much hotter into the second half of the month. Precipitation anomalies finally, so week 1 precipitation, 29th of May to 4th of June, is very substantially drier than average. Week 2 is the 5th to 11th of June. Obviously it's more unsettled, but it isn't as unsettled as what the JMA was showing actually. So we're still hanging on to slightly drier than average conditions to the far north of the country, northwest. Most places near normal with precipitation. So the CFS is not as unsettled in week 2 as the JMA. I'm going to go through to week 3. If anything, we start to imply anyway, but we could be turning things drier, particularly to more northern parts of the country. By the time we get through to week 4, again, I think it's a weak signal, but again, I think if anything, we're probably on the drier side, and particularly so for more northern parts of the country. So, well, we've got agreement between the two models for week 1, so that's something to go at. It definitely looks as though we're going to have more hot and dry weather in the next few days. After that, we're going to get a cold shot. They're both in agreement about that. Northerly winds are going to drop the temperature very substantially from week 1 to week 2. And then they sort of diverge a little bit. I think the JMA is implying something a little bit more unsettled and probably a little bit cooler through the middle and into the second half of June, whereas the CFS wants to start building back the high pressure quite quickly after that cold plummet, after the temperature plummet of the cold shot, wants to start building high pressure back quite quickly and turn us a lot drier and warmer through the middle and second half of the month. So for weeks 3 and 4, they are in disagreement, but for weeks 1 and 2, we're in agreement, starting warm and dry, going cold. Whether it gets unsettled with that cold weather, they're a bit of a disagreement about that, but certainly we're going to see a plummeting of the temperature. And then divergence may be unsettled with the JMA for the middle and second half of the month, warmer and drier with the CFS. The way this spring has gone and past few months has gone, I would probably side more of the CFS on this. I would think it's probably not going to be that long before we start bringing some warmer, drier weather back through the middle and second half of the month. But we shall see about that. Remember, it's just a snapshot of what these models are showing today. They could all look very, very different next week. Any forecast beyond 5-7 days comes with big health warnings. But I think they've been performing quite well over the past few weeks, the JMA and the CFS. But again, that's no guarantee that they will continue to perform well. So for the time being, just a pinch of salt, could all look very different next week, but that's how JMA Friday is shaping up today. We'll be back later on with your week to 10 DB update, and then we've got the ENSO update coming up for you tonight. That's going to be around 7 o'clock. That's all for now though, and thanks for watching.